The gift of light. The Helios research station hung like a jeweled pendant against the vast darkness of space, its solar arrays stretching out like crystalline wings catching the light of distant stars. Inside Laboratory 7, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the Proxima Centauri system, her dark eyes reflecting the red glow of the dying star at its center. "How long?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Vexthor, her Centaurian colleague, clicked his mandibles in distress. His crystalline exoskeleton seemed duller than usual, matching his somber mood. 3 standard cycles, perhaps 4 if we're fortunate. The stellar degradation is accelerating faster than our initial models predicted. Sarah ran her fingers through her short black hair, a habit that still fascinated her alien colleagues. The implications were staggering. Billions of Centaurians would need to evacuate their homeworld before their sun's premature death plunged their system into eternal winter. The evacuation plans were already in motion, but they all knew it was impossible to relocate an entire civilization in time. "There has to be another way," she muttered, expanding the hologram with a gesture. The dying star rotated before them, its unstable core clearly visible in the simulation. 2 decades of human fusion research flickered through her mind. The breakthrough at ITER, the first sustainable microfusion plants, the portable units that now powered most of Earth's deep space missions. "Dr. Chen." Vexthor's auxiliary eyes focused on her with concern. "You have that expression humans get when they're about to suggest something impossible." Sarah smiled despite herself. "Not impossible, just highly improbable." She walked to her workstation and pulled up the schematics for Earth's latest fusion containment systems. "What if we could give you a new sun? A smaller one, but one that could buy you the time you need." Vexthor's crystalline plates shifted in what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of shocked laughter. "A sun? In a box? Even your species' remarkable technology couldn't." He stopped as Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface, combining elements from a dozen different human engineering projects. "The principles are the same as our portable fusion reactors, just scaled up significantly. We'd need to modify the magnetic containment fields, develop new heat dissipation systems, but..." She paused, running preliminary calculations. "It could work. A network of artificial microsuns in stable orbit around your planet, each one providing a fraction of the energy you're losing from your star. The energy requirements alone would be massive, yes, but we solved that problem on Earth years ago. The initial reaction is the hard part. Once it's running, it becomes self-sustaining." She projected her rough design into the space between them. "The real challenge will be a containment field. We'd need to develop new materials that could withstand the temperatures, something that combines your crystal growth technology with our magnetic field expertise." Vexthor moved closer to the hologram, his scientist's curiosity overtaking his skepticism. "The crystalline matrices we use in our deep space vessels, if we could adapt them to channel magnetic fields." "Exactly." Sarah's excitement was building. "Your people understand crystal engineering better than anyone in known space, combined with our fusion technology." She spent the next hour outlining her idea, watching as Vexthor's initial dismissal turned to cautious interest, then to genuine excitement. By the time they finished, 3 more Centaurian scientists had joined them, their crystalline bodies glittering as they contributed their own expertise to the evolving design. "It would require resources we don't have," one of them pointed out, "and cooperation from at least a dozen different worlds to gather the necessary materials." "Leave that to me," Sarah said, already composing a message to Earth in her mind. "Humans have some experience with impossible projects, and we're very good at knowing people who know people." As she looked at the preliminary design floating before them, a perfect sphere of contained stellar fire that could save an entire civilization, Sarah felt a familiar surge of determination. This was why humanity had reached for the stars, not just to explore, but to help, to solve problems that seemed unsolvable. "I still think you're slightly mad," Vexthor said, but his tone was affectionate. But perhaps that's exactly what we need right now. Sarah grinned. That's practically our species' motto. Now let's figure out how to build a sun. The next 12 hours were a blur of calculations, material specifications, and increasingly excited discussions. By the time Sarah finally stepped away from the lab, the first real prototype designs were taking shape. She paused at the observation deck on her way to her quarters, looking out at the distant red dwarf that had sparked this whole crazy project. Humanity had come to the stars carrying many things: their dreams, their determination, their endless curiosity. Now they would do something even more remarkable. They would carry light itself to those who needed it most. Sarah touched the window, her reflection overlapping with the distant star. "We're coming," she whispered. "Just hold on a little longer." Behind her, the holographic plans for humanity's greatest gift continued to spin, a miniature sun waiting to be born. Impossible dreams. The Centaurian Science Council chamber was eerily silent as Sarah completed her presentation. Dozens of crystalline forms sat motionless, their faceted bodies refracting the light from her holographic displays in rainbow patterns across the walls. She tried to read their reactions, but even after years of working with Centaurians, their crystal-based expressions remained largely mysterious to her. "Preposterous," Elder Zixtel finally said, his voice resonating through his crystal structure. "You propose to create artificial stars. The energy requirements alone are completely feasible using modified human fusion technology," Sarah interrupted, bringing up the detailed calculations. "We've already successfully tested the base principles in our deep space reactors. At a fraction of the scale you're suggesting," another council member chimed in, "the containment fields would collapse." A new voice joined the discussion, smoother and younger than the others. "Not necessarily." A Centaurian scientist rose from the lower tiers, their crystal form showing the green-blue patterns of a theoretical physicist. "I've reviewed Dr. Chen's proposals in detail. The mathematics is sound." Sarah recognized the voice. "Thank you, Dr. Kexry. The mathematics may be sound," Elder Zixtal countered, "but the practical applications are another matter entirely. We cannot risk the resources of our remaining time on an untested human theory." Kexry moved to stand beside Sarah, their crystalline form shifting to display complex equations across its surface, a sign of intense scientific focus among their kind. "With respect, Elder, we cannot afford not to try. The evacuation plans will only save a fraction of our population. This could save everyone." The chamber erupted in resonating voices, crystal bodies humming with agitation. Sarah stood her ground, waiting. She'd expected this reaction. It was the same one Earth scientists had shown to the first fusion containment proposals decades ago. The same one they'd shown to faster-than-light travel, to quantum communication, to every impossible thing humanity had eventually achieved. "If I may," she said, her voice cutting through the crystalline chorus. She pulled up a new hologram, the latest stellar degradation data. "Your sun will die. That's no longer in question. The only question is, what are you willing to do to save your people?" She gestured, and the hologram shifted to show her proposed network of artificial suns. "We're not suggesting a permanent solution. We're offering you time. Time to either stabilize your star or complete a proper evacuation. Time to save not just lives, but your entire civilization's cultural heritage." Kexry's crystal form pulsed with supportive patterns. "The human proposal combines our crystal growth technology with their fusion containment expertise. It's an elegant solution that neither of our species could achieve alone." "And what do the humans want in return?" The question came from a previously silent council member. Sarah smiled. "Knowledge. The right to establish a joint research facility here, and the opportunity to prove that different species working together can solve problems that neither could solve alone." "Pretty words," Elder Zixtel said, "but—" An alarm cut through the chamber, its pulsing red light reflecting off countless crystal surfaces. The holographic display automatically switched to a real-time view of their star. Sarah's heart sank as she saw the massive stellar flare erupting from its surface, far larger than any their models had predicted. Containment fields at maximum, someone shouted. The chamber's crystal walls hummed as they channeled power to the planetary shields. Sarah quickly pulled up the sensor data, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. The stellar decay is accelerating, she announced. At this rate, you don't have 3 cycles. You barely have 1. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence carried a different weight. How quickly could you build your first prototype? Elder Zixtal asked quietly. With full cooperation and resources, 2 standard months for a small-scale test version. Sarah had already run the numbers countless times. 4 months for the first full-scale unit. We'd need 6 units minimum to maintain viable temperatures across your primary agricultural regions. That's impossible, someone muttered. The material requirements alone. Impossible is what humans do best, Kexri said, their crystal form glowing with what Sarah had learned to recognize as enthusiasm. Their entire history is full of achieving things they were told could not be done. The council chamber resonated with discussion for several minutes. Sarah waited, watching the stellar data continue to stream in. Each new reading confirmed her worst fears. They had even less time than they thought. Finally, Elder Zixtal rose. Dr. Chen, you have 1 standard month to produce a working prototype. If you succeed, you will have our full cooperation and resources for the full-scale project. If you fail, the Elder's crystal form darkened. Well, I suppose failure won't matter much at that point. Sarah nodded grimly. We'll need to establish the research facility immediately, and I'll need Kexri as my primary liaison with your scientific community. Granted, the Elder said. Now go. Prove to us that human impossible is different from Centaurian impossible. As Sarah and Kexri hurried from the chamber, the young Centaurian's crystal form rippled with what might have been amusement. 1 month to create a miniature star. Even for humans, that's impossible. Sarah grinned. Just wait until you see how humans work when someone tells us something can't be done. We get downright stubborn about it. Together, they rushed toward the research labs, their shadows merging on the crystal floors. Human and alien united in pursuit of an impossible dream. Behind them, through the chamber's windows, their dying sun flickered ominously, as if daring them to try and replace it. Trial by fire. The test chamber was a massive crystalline dome, its walls 3 meters thick and reinforced with the strongest magnetic containment fields the Centaurians could generate. Sarah stood at the control console, her fingers hovering over the activation sequence, while Kexri monitored the prototype's containment matrix. 23 days. Kexri's crystal form pulsed with nervous energy. I still can't believe we built this in 23 days. Sarah smiled grimly. Amazing what you can accomplish with unlimited resources, no bureaucracy, and the fate of an entire civilization hanging in the balance. She checked the readings one final time. How's the crystal matrix holding? Stable. The integration of human magnetic field technology with our crystal growth patterns is elegant. Kexri's form shifted to display the internal structure. Though I still say the ratio of thorium to hydrogen in the initial reaction is. Trust me, Sarah interrupted gently. Human fusion engineers spent decades perfecting these ratios. The thorium catalyzes the reaction exactly how we need it to. A soft chime indicated the arrival of the Centaurian Science Council. Elder Zixtal led the procession, their crystalline forms casting rainbow refractions across the chamber's curved walls. Dr. Chen, the Elder's voice resonated with formal gravity. Are you prepared to demonstrate your star in a box? Sarah nodded, keeping her expression neutral despite the slight condescension in the Elder's tone. All preliminary tests indicate the containment fields will hold. We'll start with a reaction at 1/1,000,000th of full power, enough to prove the concept without risking the facility if something goes wrong. Which it won't, Kexri added quickly, their crystal form glowing with confidence. Sarah began the startup sequence. The prototype, A sphere 2 meters in diameter suspended in the center of the chamber hummed to life. Its crystalline shell, grown using modified Centaurian technology, began to pulse with stored energy. Initiating magnetic containment field, Sarah announced. Beginning hydrogen injection. The sphere's core started to glow as superheated hydrogen plasma swirled into position. Sarah watched the temperature readings climb steadily. Everything was proceeding exactly as their simulations had predicted. Introducing thorium catalyst in 3, 2, 1. A brilliant flash filled the chamber as the first fusion reaction ignited. Sarah squinted against the glare despite the automatic filtering of the observation windows. For a moment, everything was perfect. They had created a miniature star. Then the containment field fluctuated. Power spike. Kexri's crystal form flashed warning patterns. The reaction is accelerating beyond predicted parameters. Sarah's fingers flew across the controls. The thorium cascade is stronger than we calculated. The crystal matrix is amplifying the reaction somehow. Shut it down, Elder Zixtal ordered. Wait. Sarah studied the rapidly changing data. The crystal matrix isn't failing. It's enhancing the efficiency of the reaction. We're getting nearly 10 times the expected energy output. Kexri's form rippled with excitement. The crystalline structure is naturally channeling the magnetic fields in ways we didn't anticipate. It's creating micro-containment zones that are actually stabilizing the reaction. Fascinating. One of the council scientists moved closer to the displays. The crystal matrix is behaving almost like a living system, adapting to the energy flows. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. This was exactly the kind of unexpected discovery she lived for. When two different technologies combine to create something greater than either could achieve alone. Containment is holding steady at the new power level, she reported. We're generating enough energy to power this entire facility, and this is still just a prototype at minimal capacity. The chamber filled with the harmonic tones of excited Centaurian discussion. Even Elder Zixtal's crystal form showed patterns of cautious optimism. How soon can you scale this up to full size? The Elder asked. That's the best part, Sarah said, pulling up new calculations. With this enhanced efficiency, we won't need units as large as originally planned. We can build more, smaller reactors that will be easier to position and maintain. The crystal matrices are actually making this more practical than we hoped. Kexri's form pulsed with what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of laughter. Humans, you set out to build an artificial sun and accidentally invented something even better. Not accidentally, Sarah corrected. This is what happens when we combine technologies and ideas. This isn't just human ingenuity or Centaurian crystal science. It's something new that neither of us could have created alone. The prototype continued to shine in the center of the chamber, its light reflecting off the crystalline forms of the Centaurian scientists. To Sarah, it looked like hope made manifest, not just for saving this civilization, but for proving that different species could achieve incredible things together. Begin constructing the full-scale units immediately, Elder Zixtal ordered. And Dr. Chen, it seems we owe humanity a greater debt than we anticipated. Sarah shook her head. No debts. This is what humanity does. We explore, we innovate, and most importantly, we help, because we know that someday we might be the ones needing help. As the council members filed out to begin organizing the full-scale production, Kexri remained at the console with Sarah, both of them watching their miniature star burn with steady, life-giving light. You know, Kexri said thoughtfully, I'm beginning to understand why humans have spread so far through the galaxy so quickly. You don't just solve problems, you transform them into opportunities. Sarah smiled, already making notes for improvements to the design. That's the real human secret, Kexri. We don't just think outside the box. Sometimes we build a whole new box, or in this case, a box with a star inside it. Burning truth. The orbital construction facility blazed with activity, crystalline ships darting between massive assembly platforms where dozens of artificial suns took shape. Sarah watched from the observation deck, dark circles under her eyes testament to endless hours of work. Each prototype they completed brought new challenges and refinements. Production report, Dr. Chen. The voice came from behind her, accompanied by the distinctive resonance of the Centaurian Admiral's crystal form. 32 units completed, Admiral Nixtal. Sarah replied without turning. Another 18 in final assembly. We're ahead of schedule, but our sun isn't waiting for schedules, the Admiral finished. The latest projections. Sarah pulled up a holographic display, showing their dying star's deterioration. The stellar corona is becoming increasingly unstable. We've had to divert resources to strengthen the planetary shields 3 times this week alone. The Admiral's crystal form darkened. The evacuation ships are ready if we fail. We won't fail. The voice belonged to Kexri, who emerged from a nearby lift. Their crystal form glowed with the complex patterns of recent calculations. The latest efficiency improvements are exceeding expectations. Each new unit is producing 12% more energy than the last. Sarah nodded. The crystal matrices are continuing to evolve as we refine the growth patterns. It's like they're learning from each exposure to the fusion reaction. Learning. The Admiral's tone carried skepticism. They're crystals, not living things. The distinction may not be as clear as we thought, Kexri said, projecting a complex data pattern across their surface. We've detected organized energy patterns within the matrices that resemble neural networks. The crystals aren't just containing the reaction. They're adapting to it, optimizing it in ways our computers are still trying to understand. A sudden alarm cut through their discussion. Sarah's hands flew to the nearest console, pulling up emergency data. Solar flare, bigger than anything we've recorded yet. The observation deck's windows automatically darkened as radiation levels spiked. In the distance, their dying sun blazed with malevolent fury, sending waves of plasma into space that made the planetary shields flicker visibly. How long until the first grid is operational? The Admiral demanded. We can begin positioning units tomorrow, Sarah said, running calculations. We'll need at least 20 in orbit before we can generate enough energy to stabilize planetary temperatures. But Dr. Chen, a human technician, burst onto the deck, tablet in hand. We're detecting unusual readings from Storage Bay 7. The completed units, they're resonating with each other. Sarah and Kexri exchanged glances. Show me. The data showed clear energy patterns linking their artificial suns, even though they weren't yet activated. The crystal matrices were somehow communicating, creating a network that nobody had anticipated. This changes everything. Kexri's form pulsed with excitement. If they can synchronize automatically, they'll be far more efficient than we calculated, Sarah finished. Instead of 20 units, we might be able to stabilize the planet with as few as 12. The Admiral's crystal form showed patterns of both hope and concern. And you're certain you can control this network? Control might not be the right word, Sarah said carefully. Guide, maybe. Work with it. This is something new. A true fusion of human and Centaurian technology that's becoming more than the sum of its parts. Another alarm sounded, this one from the construction base. Sarah pulled up the feed to see completed units beginning to pulse with soft light, their crystal matrices synchronizing in a complex dance of energy. They're activating themselves, the technician whispered. No, Kexri corrected, their form rippling with understanding. They're preparing themselves. The network is optimizing for maximum efficiency before deployment. Sarah watched in amazement as patterns of energy flowed between the units, creating geometric shapes of pure light. It was beautiful and slightly terrifying. Exactly the kind of breakthrough that seemed to follow humanity's ventures into space. Admiral, she said, turning to face the Centaurian leader. I need authorization to begin deployment immediately. The units are ready, and we don't have time to run more tests. This is unprecedented. The Admiral's form showed patterns of deep concern. Automated systems linking themselves together, making autonomous decisions. That's what humans do, Sarah said firmly. We don't just build tools. We create new possibilities. Sometimes those possibilities surprise even us. But that's how we progress. We take calculated risks. We trust in our ability to solve problems as they arise. And we never, ever give up when lives are at stake. The Admiral was silent for a long moment, crystal form shifting through complex patterns of thought. Finally, they spoke. Begin deployment. But Dr. Chen, if this network becomes unstable, it won't, Sarah and Kexri said simultaneously. As if in response to their confidence, the network of artificial suns pulsed once, their combined light momentarily rivaling the dying star they were meant to replace. In that brief flash, Sarah saw the future, not just of the Centaurian civilization, but of what humanity could achieve by sharing their knowledge and technology with other species. Prepare for immediate deployment, she ordered. Kexri, I need you to coordinate with the orbital platforms. Let's give these people their sunrise back. As the facility burst into frenzied activity, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Humans had come to the stars carrying many things, but perhaps their greatest gift was the ability to imagine impossible solutions and the determination to make those solutions reality. Dawn of hope. The bridge of the deployment vessel hummed with tension as Sarah watched the first network of artificial suns move into position. Through the main viewport, she could see their dying sun casting an angry red glare across space, its surface roiling with plasma storms that threatened to overwhelm the planetary shields at any moment. Final unit approaching designated coordinates, Kexri announced, their crystal form glowing with complex mathematical patterns. Network synchronization at 98% and climbing. Sarah nodded, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Begin primary activation sequence. Let's see what these beautiful, impossible things can really do. Around them, 12 artificial suns hung in precise geometric formation, their crystal matrices pulsing with contained power. As Sarah initiated the startup sequence, they began to glow brighter, energy patterns flowing between them like threads of liquid light. Energy output exceeding projected levels, one of the human technicians reported. The network effect is amplifying their efficiency by almost 300%. The crystal matrices, Kexri's form, sparkled with excitement. They're not just communicating, they're evolving, creating new configurations we never imagined possible. Sarah watched in awe as the network of artificial suns began to spin in a complex dance, automatically adjusting their positions to optimize energy distribution across the planet's surface. The crystalline technology they'd created wasn't just working. It was thinking, adapting, improving itself in real time. Surface temperature readings stabilizing. Another technician called out, "We're actually seeing improvement in the atmospheric conditions." A sudden violent flare from the dying sun bathed everything in crimson light. Warning alarms screamed across the bridge as radiation levels spiked, planetary shields failing. The Centaurian shield operator's crystal form flashed with panic patterns. Catastrophic collapse in 30 seconds. Reroute everything through the network, Sarah ordered, her fingers flying across the controls. The crystal matrices can handle it. Kexri moved to help, their own crystal form resonating with the energy patterns flowing through the artificial suns. The matrices are already adapting. They're creating a unified field that's far stronger than the planetary shields ever were. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as their network of artificial suns formed a protective barrier between the planet and its dying star. The crystal matrices glowed with impossible brightness, absorbing and redistributing the solar radiation in a display that looked more like art than engineering. "It's beautiful," someone whispered. "It's life," Kexri said softly. "We didn't just create artificial suns. We created something alive. Something that wants to protect and nurture, just as a real star nurtures the worlds around it." Sarah smiled, understanding flowing through her like the energy patterns in the crystal matrices. That's what happens when you combine human creativity with Centaurian crystal science. We don't just solve problems. We transform them into something new and wonderful. Hours passed as they monitored the network's performance. The artificial suns worked in perfect harmony, maintaining ideal conditions across the planet's surface while protecting it from the dying star's death throes. Reports began flowing in from the surface, crops recovering, weather patterns stabilizing, hope returning to a world that had been preparing for evacuation. Elder Zixtel's voice came through the communication system, their crystal tones carrying unmistakable emotion. Dr. Chen, you haven't just saved our world, you've shown us possibilities we never dreamed existed. The Council has voted unanimously to share this technology with other worlds facing similar crises. That's exactly what we hoped for, Sarah replied. This was never just about saving one world. It was about proving what we can achieve when we work together, when we combine our knowledge and trust each other enough to try the impossible. The impossible, Kexri's form sparkled with what Sarah now recognized as joy. Humans do seem to have a special relationship with that word. Sarah laughed. We just don't believe in it, that's all. When someone tells us something's impossible, we take it as a challenge. Through the viewport, their network of artificial suns continued its complex dance, weaving light and energy into a shield that would protect an entire civilization. But beyond that, it represented something even more important. Proof that different species could come together to create wonders that neither could have achieved alone. You know, Kexri said thoughtfully, there are other worlds out there facing similar problems. Other suns dying before their time. Other civilizations in need of hope. Then we'll help them too, Sarah said without hesitation. That's what humans do. We explore, we innovate, and most importantly, we share what we learn. Because out here among the stars, we're all in this together. As if in response to her words, the network of artificial suns pulsed with renewed brightness, their light spreading across the surface of the Centaurian homeworld like the dawn of a new age. An age where the combined knowledge of multiple species could turn even the darkest night into endless possibility. In the end, humanity had brought more than just a sun in a box to the stars. They had brought hope, determination, and the unshakable belief that with enough creativity and cooperation, nothing was truly impossible. Sarah watched as the first true sunrise in months began to paint the horizon of the saved world in shades of gold and promise. End log, she said softly. Project Daybreak successful. Phase 1 complete. Phase 1. Kexri asked, their form showing curiosity patterns. Sarah grinned. Well, we've proven we can build artificial suns. Now let's see what else we can do when we work together. Above them, the network of crystal suns continued to shine, a testament to what could be achieved when human ingenuity met alien wisdom, and neither would accept the word impossible.